Good morning. So we are starting with the first session for today. It's on robotics, AI, drones, and anti-drones, which is an interesting thing for me. And the speakers for today are Mr. Robert Quinn, Vice President, Defense and Robotics Division; Mr. Balaji Lakshman, Co-founder and CTO of Java E-Dairy; Mr. Lakshman, Senior Vice President, Polestar Solutions. May I now request the speakers to occupy the dais. I would like to invite Mr. Robert Quinn to the dais. Please, sir. Please occupy this seat. Welcome, sir. Mr. Balaji Lakshman. And Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and being part of our panel. Thank you so much. So the first speaker would be Mr. Balaji Lakshman. To introduce him, Mr. Balaji Lakshman is the co-founder and CTO of Java E-Dairy. He brings over 12 years of entrepreneurial and professional experience in innovation, product designs, as well as AI expertise. He has built robots, AI-driven products for banking, telepresence, and HR companies. He holds a bachelor degree in computer science and MS in research from IIT Madras. He has been a speaker in several TEDx industrial events and holds a joint patent. Balaji is inspired by many great minds, including Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and Iron Man. He is also inspired by people who are less fortunate but who works twice as hard to ensure a better life for the next generation. He enjoys soft, melodious country music and the music of A.R. Rahman, Sid Sriram, and Arjit Singh. Balaji enjoys traveling, loves to unwind on long bike rides on ECR at Chennai. His favorite cities are San Francisco, Hong Kong, and Kanyakumari. Balaji can play the violin and enjoys reading non-fiction and self-improvement books. His friends describe him as aspirational, intelligent, hardworking, and a jovial person with a very kind heart. Over 12 years of entrepreneurial and professional experience in innovation, product design with AI expertise. Previously, he built robots and AI-driven products for banking and telepresence and HR. And he has done his BE Computer Science, MS in Research from IIT Madras. He's also a TEDx speaker, industry events, and holds a joint patent. I now request Mr. Balaji to occupy the dais, please.
This robotics and artificial intelligence in India, we have very huge opportunities not only in the military but in other sectors too. And I would request the participant companies, if you are into artificial intelligence or automation or robotics, Mr. Robert Quinn from US especially come for this session from US only to find his potential partners maybe in future. Am I right? So those companies into automation, robotics or artificial intelligence may get in touch with him. There are abundant opportunities both in India and abroad. Make use of the opportunity and contact him after the session. I hope you will be giving the contact details. Thank you.
So glad to be here and share my thoughts on the artificial intelligence and robotics. Thanks for joining and thank you for the opportunity. So
hello, this is the robot speaking. Yes, you heard that right. I'm going to give the presentation.
No. I'm going to give the presentation. So yeah. So where are the robots, right? So we have been hearing about the robots for a fairly long time, right? Obviously, we have seen them in the movies, right? You can see the R2D2, C3PO, the Star Wars robots and stuff. And of course, we have our own Talevar, who thankfully brought Indiran, right? And it has taken robots to all street corners, right? So even my grandma knows about what robot is, right? So thanks to the movies for the same. But of course, what happens in the movies happens in the movies. But robots have been around for a fairly long time now, and probably we don't get to see them in most of the things that we use on a day-to-day basis. The impact of robots have been significant. For example, robotic arm is one of the key elements in the entire production line, be it your mobiles or be it your cars, right? So without them, I don't think we'll be able to mass manufacture as well as get the kind of precision that we need, right? So the impact of the robots have been fairly significant. Of course, you can look at the two cars, right? Can you spot any difference? The one on the right, obviously, is a Tesla. It is basically a robot on wheels, which can sort of understand the environment, which can self-navigate. You just have to say where you have to go, and the robot will sort of self-navigate and go to the location that you want. And of course, some of you might have seen some of the videos where people just essentially enter where they want to go, and they are practically sleeping in the car, right? So, there was at least one occasion where somebody had a heart attack, and they just put the nearest hospital, and they had passed out. So literally, the car took them to the hospital, right? So, and saved his life, right? Of course, most of you here would have also ordered something on the e-commerce, right? And who do you think are picking up the stuff from the warehouses? It is robots, right? If Amazon and Flipkarts are able to do the deliveries without any confusion and getting us the products that we ordered on time, it is primarily because there are swarm of robots in their warehouses, right? So there is India-grown Orange Robotics, so who have significantly worked on the warehouse robots. See, of course, in movies, we would have seen a bunch of robots. So there is a movie called Mugamudi, for which I was the robotics consultant for the movie, and I had the opportunity to build a 6 feet humanoid, which is the wish list for any roboticist in that sense. So it was a lab-based robot, and I took the opportunity to sort of build the same. And of course, animatronics is another field in terms of where this entire robotics and sort of actuations and all those things can be used. So this is one of the other robots that we had built earlier, which is a telepresence robot. So this was built like 2012, 13, slightly ahead of its time in that sense. This is a banking robot, which is conceptually a branch in a bot, where all the banking devices are there. You can just give the fingerprint. Through Aadhaar, you will be verified, a photo will be taken, you can enter the details, the accounts can be created, and there is a card issuer as well, which can give you the, your debit card. Let's say you lost your ATM card as well, you can just go and enter your details and you can get a replacement card. So this was a concept that we sort of built along with Intellect Design, which is a banking software major. So the entire talk essentially sort of covers not just from a defense perspective, essentially the scope of robotics, where all it can be used, what is happening in the industry and stuff. See, and of course, 3D printing is one of the other key areas where the impact of robotics and this whole 3D printing in terms of manufacturing can have a huge impact. Of course, I had the opportunity to work with the leprosy patients in terms of how do we build things so that we can essentially cover their foot and come up with a 3D printed footwear so that there is no social distancing from them. So this is an open source project on robotic fingers, which is for all the amputees. You can just build a system where they can attach it and they can do simple tasks like lifting a water bottle, opening a door, and things like that. And of course, defense robotics, right? So this is a fairly wide sort of space with a lot of applications. The one on the top is Big Dog. So there is a company called Boston Dynamics, which is a pioneer in robotics, which does a lot of defense robotics work. And of course, the impact of the robots in the minefield and in terms of the bomb detection and bomb disposal has been significant. I'll just probably show, so of course, I did have an opportunity earlier to work with the Indian Army's robotics division based out of Secunderabad, where we had built a sort of a surveillance and defense robot. Let me give, and of course, drones is another major areas, from micro drones to, of course, predator drones, right? So with the whole scheme of, depending on the application that you need, the size of the drones and the capacity of the drones varies, and of late, see, of course, the members in the defense staff know this a lot more. The availability and the operational capacity of drones more often than not also decides the direction of the war, right? So, and there have been multiple examples of the same. And of course, given there are drones, given there is a radar, there is an anti-radar, and given there is a drone, there is an anti-drone, and and of course, even birds are essentially trained to sort of capture the drones as an anti-drone. Besides that, of course, there is an anti-drone gun which can sort of target the drones and bring them down, and there are wavelength-based systems which can disrupt the signal system so that the drone goes for a toss. So all those systems are sort of evolving in the world. I just want to give a small video which sort of encompasses the impact of robots, especially in the war, in Afghanistan and Iraq. So, so these are sort of traditional ways of, finding the mines, right? So, of course, with the help of robots, some of these critical areas have been sort of operated with the anti-mine robots, which has practically saved more than about 2,000 lives in the war, and there are enough data sort of available for that. And of course, in most of the defense or action movies, you might have seen drones and robots which help the soldiers. And recently, some stats say that close to about 12 to 15% of the army are robots, the US Army. So the impact of robots have been fairly significant in that sense. So these are micro drones, which can, travel fairly long, and probably the cost of the drones also is, depending on the application, is very critical in terms of whether it is going to be surveillance or essentially armed or self-destructive, right? So all that is sort of there. So coming to AI, so AI is everywhere, artificial intelligence, right? So there is almost no domain where the impact of artificial intelligence is not there. So of course, if you hold a bank account, most of you do have. It is essentially algorithms which decide what is your credit score, whether you qualify for a loan or not, or what is the risk that are involved, right? So there is enough amount of data and intelligence that is generated based on the transactions that you sort of do. So even if it is not as evident to our eyes, there are a lot of AI-driven algorithms which keeps mining and generate useful intelligence in various domain spaces. And of course, all of you, some of you might have essentially used Alexas and Siris of the world, right? So where you can ask multiple questions and it can essentially come out with an answer based on its own intelligence. And of course, quite recently we have ChatGPT, right, which is creating a sensation, which typically has the world of data and wealth of data that is available, and it has got one notch above your standard search and answers that you get. You can ask very specific questions and it gives you, fairly useful answers in that sense. And it's going to have its impact across industries. For example, in my team, close to about 10% of the coding as we speak is being done by ChatGPT, right? So, and the impact of this is going to be fairly significant, where more and more sort of automations via these are going to happen. So AI is essentially going to happen in every industry. So does AI help for cows? Any guess? Cows? Yes, it does. So, as part of eDiary, we are developing an Aadhaar equivalent for cattle. So the portion you see between the nostrils, it's called muzzle, and the patterns there are unique for each cattle. So similar to our fingerprint. So we have designed a mobile solution which has a built-in AI which can understand that this is the muzzle portion, and it understands each frames, analyzes it, and takes the frame which has the patterns that are understandable by the algorithms, right? So this is practically building an Aadhaar for cattle. So tomorrow there will be cattle moving around with their Aadhaar card in their neck, right? So, and imagine a world where the cattle is linked to the Aadhaar of the farmer, and enough government provisions are targeted towards that, right? So, and of course, image processing, video analytics is another major area, right, where a lot of work is happening and is in progress. There are enough stores which analyzes the movement of the people who essentially walk in and try and place products accordingly or try and sell things accordingly. And of course, all the cars on the streets are essentially tracked, not just from a camera perspective, but a lot of intelligence on top, where how many cars pass through based on the number plate, based on the way it is essentially moving. A lot of analytics is essentially generated. So, so if there are students in the audience, some of the key skills that could be essentially useful for you is in terms of the machine learning, deep learning, and artificial intelligence. There are enough open source training materials that are available, and automation and robotics is another key domain space which, if you essentially learn, can have a good career opportunities. Similarly, analytics and visualization is another key area where once enough data and intelligence is developed, how do you sort of mine it and present it in such a way that it is useful for the organizations and businesses. So, and being a domain specific expert adds value in terms of this entire skill set. If it is going to be the MSMEs, there are a whole bunch of opportunities. Some of the key ones, especially in the defense tech, manufacturing, support and repair, is going to be pretty useful. There are a lot of opportunities in that space. Robotics, of course, the applications are fairly wide and huge depending on the use cases. And 3D printing is another space which it has had its initial start, but in the cusp of having that acceleration that is going to be there. And similarly in the vision computing and image processing and analytics, these are other key areas, especially using artificial intelligence, which can have a significant sort of impact. So, see, of course, while we humans are hooked, all the machines are learning. So tomorrow it would be not just from a competition perspective, a human versus machine, it is humans and machine essentially coming together to solve some of the complex problems that we deal with the world. Thank you for giving this opportunity and happy to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So, the audience, do you have any questions to ask him? You could post your questions now. Any questions for Mr. Balaji? No? Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for the insights.